So we're reading Liquid Luck by Joe Gallenberger. We are in chapter 4, page number 49 of the book and page number 54 of the PDF.
We all need food and shelter and want love and respect. Acknowledge what you have in common with others, even folks who might seem weird or evil to you. This can boil down to, just like me, this person is seeking happiness in his or her life.
Okay, so all of us, what are we really looking for? We are looking for love. We are looking for companionship. We are looking to be happy at the end of the day. That's it. That's the most important thing that we are looking for. Anything that we literally strive for is basically because we think that it will give us happiness. Okay, now, basically, if you have something in common, if there's a resonance between you and another person or another thing, that is what will literally make you happy at the end of the day.
Act daily to help ease the suffering of others, even in a small way. Offer a smile or a kind word, or do an errand or call for them, or just be willing to listen with your full attention as another person shares a problem that they are having. I have a friend who is a great manifester. As an entrepreneur with many companies, he is in airports often. Most people find that airports drag the energy down with all the rush and stress. He keeps his energy high by looking for those he can help on his way through the airport with luggage, directions, etc. I tried this and it works very well in just about any public situation that can be stressful, such as malls and government buildings.
So, as you all know, I used to, as you all know, I used to travel. As you all know, I used to travel a lot, and I've seen this happening in airports myself. If you smile at a person, generally you will get a smile back. And especially, I love observing the children. The children are always, I mean, most of the children end up having a great time. They'll be walking around, running around. They'll come and peek at you and go back. So they are full of joy, even in the airport. But most of the people nowadays, if you really see, people are stuck on their mobile phones.
झा को हम कोई काम से भेजे थे, वो हो गया काम, मगर हमारा तो बुक रीडिंग चल रहा है.
Okay, so I've always found, that people are stuck, they'll be just waiting in anticipation. They are bored. They're not utilizing the time in a productive way. Okay, they'll be just sitting there. So what happens is that wherever you are, whenever you are there, in a car, in any situation that you are in, if you can build uplifting energies in you and figure out how you can utilize the time in a productive way, in a life enhancing way, always you will land up in the right side of the grid. For one, as far as I am concerned, I'm never bored. Okay, I always have at least 2 books with me. I will have my music with me. So all the time I keep myself busy. I will not sit down doing nothing anytime. The point is that we must use this time. The moment the time is gone, it's gone. We have to see how we are utilizing our time. And the airport is one place where you can actually use your time. And what he's saying over here, be helpful. When you help people out, you feel something happening within you. Whether they feel happy or not is besides the point. The fact that you have helped, it releases certain energies in you. As they said in the previous paragraph, that DHEA is released. You feel good about it. And the moment you feel good about it, it'll always do you benefit. Okay, if I see someone struggling with luggage or not being able to lift the luggage, I'll always attempt to help out.
An advanced stage of compassion is to not only to act to ease the suffering for those we love and give to charities that we resonate with, but to also act kindly even to those who mistreat us. Ideally, we can make each person we interact with into either a friend or into a teacher of how to stand our ground in a compassionate way. Imagine what stresses the person might be under. Practice acting with compassion the next time a person treats you poorly. You can start small. Practice allows this to feel more natural and shows you that it can be very rewarding.
So the idea here is to find something to be grateful for in any situation. Find something to appreciate in any situation. If someone is pointing out a fault to you, if you can find something to appreciate, okay, that person is doing it for my good or something like that, okay, automatically you will get onto the right side of the grid. And on the right side of the grid is where the magic actually happens. So we can learn from each and every situation. However bad the situation may apparently seem to you, if you can find something to learn from it, if you can find something to use to grow from it, it becomes a teacher. And this I've seen again and again happening in my life. And I mean, not all the time, because even I used to get upset and all that. But after all the stuff that we are doing, you look at situations from a different perspective. And the moment you start doing that, everything seems to be good. It seems to be helpful in some way in bringing harmony, bringing knowledge, bringing information, bringing growth into your life.
For many people, I think that the most challenging step is to practice self compassion. To this end, I often use the affirmation, I accept myself as my most honored guest in my own heart, with great results. It seems to calm me down and open me up to all the good that the universe would like to send me. Really, see your own beauty. You have probably had the experience of holding a newborn baby and your heart melting, perhaps even to tears with love for the child. You know that you are becoming self compassionate when you can think of yourself and feel as much love for yourself as you have felt toward the child in your arm. Lord knows that you have had your individual challenges and probably have encountered many things that broke your heart or weighed you down. You deserve the deepest of compassion, as all feeling creatures do, for being alive on a very tough planet and having to live with the consequences, however dire, of all your decisions, even those made with incomplete or distorted information.
So who is our biggest critic? Our biggest critic is ourselves. So we must actually be observant, become aware if we are criticizing ourselves to stop it. The reason is that, again, I'm again going back to Dr. Emoto. If you are criticizing yourself, and we are made out of 70% water, Dr. Emoto clearly proved that our thoughts affect water. So what you're thinking is going to affect the water in your system and create reactions which may be congenial or maybe not congenial. So if you're not saying good things to yourself, if you're constantly criticizing yourself and bickering about yourself, then you're creating total disharmony and distortions in your own field as well as in your body system. So it is very important to be, I'm not saying that do not analyze things and strive to improve yourself. But if you are constantly criticizing yourself and kicking yourself in the butt, then that becomes a huge problem. Yeah, be empirical about it. Note that, okay, this is what has happened. Now, what can I do next? Rather than stay in that thing that has gone wrong.
My model of abundance is to fill yourself to overflowing with goodness of all types, including self compassion, and then share your overflow with others freely and compassionately. This is quite different than feeling sorry for someone. Pity puts you above them and disrespects the dignity, sacredness, and mystery of their journey. Attempts to help someone while feeling pity for them tends to result in efforts to help them your way, which can result in resistance in them and burnout in you.
So this is extremely important. if you're feeling pity for someone, then which side of the grid are you in? It is definitely on the left side of the grid. But if you are compassionate about it, that okay, I'm willing to support this person in any way that I can, then you're operating out of humility. But if you're feeling pity, then you're operating out of ego, that you're more than that other person. And let me tell you, all of us are equal. Koi bhi doodh se dhula hua nahi hai. Okay. Everyone has issues. If I say that I have no issues, I am talking off my rockers. Until I become self-realized, it is not possible for me to have no issues. But the point is, you need to start becoming aware and be compassionate about the other person's issue. Support the other person, not out of pity, but out of love and compassion. That is extremely, extremely important. I find this happening all the time in workshops and other sessions that we have. People will start crying. Okay. And they are also operating out of a habit, because they are operating out of the poor me attitude. Now they'll start crying and people will start saying, Are, don't cry, don't cry. And they'll give them attention, right? So they're used to that attention. And as soon as you do that, you're creating a bigger problem for that person rather than supporting that person to transcend that depleting state of consciousness that they are in. So I'm very clear with this. If anyone starts crying or starts sharing in a poor me attitude, we ignore it. And we say, okay, you want to cry, cry. And I have seen this work again and again. It actually helps the person to get out of that syndrome rather than keeping them in that syndrome. If we start operating out of pity and start cajoling that person, we are actually doing a disservice to that particular person. I've seen this over and over again. I think some people have also noticed it. I don't know how they took it, but that is the thing that I find works the best in these kind of situations.
Can I share something, Nikhil?
Yeah, please.
This happened with me in the conscious presence workshop.
Okay.
When one of the exercise was going on, I think Kavita was there also in this workshop. So I saw Dadaji near me and giving me, and when I saw him, I burst out crying. So she got a little worried ki kya ho gaya bua ko. But then end of the exercise, you came to the room and you just said, let it out, let it out. And once it was gone, then I felt better.
Yeah.
It happened in the conscious presence workshop.
Yes, Bua, I remember.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
As this book progresses, I hope that you can see that the high energies discussed greatly empower our ability to manifest and heal. Conversely, if you use a technique such as liquid luck and then countermand it by living in greed, fear, ego, and survival of the fittest mentality and emotions, then life becomes like a battlefield, and it is likely that not much good will result. This is in line with quantum physics and like attracts like ideas that we are in a free choice reality, and what we choose to think and feel most regularly will be reflected in our reality.
Okay. So what does this mean over here? So what does it mean over here? The thing is that if you're willing to give freely and willing to get freely, not take freely, okay, then there is growth on both sides. But if there is a win-lose situation that you're looking for, then always you will also, sometimes you will win and sometimes you will lose. And there is always a depletion of the energy ultimately, because the act of doing will consume energy. So there'll be less energy left at the end, right? But if I'm giving willingly and getting willingly, then the energy actually starts to grow. And that is where manifestation starts to take place. Also, you'll be resonating with that. So that is what you'll attract into your life. Okay, things will start happening rather than you making them happen, because energy, the universe will provide you that energy freely because you're giving it freely. But if you get into competition and cutthroatness where you're wanting to, the crab mentality, that pull the other guy down for me to go up, that is what is going to happen to you also ultimately. Okay, so we need to understand that we are living in a thought responsive universe. If we think of something, it manifests. Right now in the 3D environment, because of conflicting thoughts, where in one case you want to make 1,000,000, and in the other case you're worried about if you make 1,000,000 what is going to happen, then you're countering your thoughts. But when we go into expanded states of consciousness, what you think will manifest immediately. I've mentioned this before. It's like that Harry Potter movie where when they're standing in front of that Almira, and when the Almira opens, whatever you fear most comes out. Right? Now, most of the time, how are we operating? We are operating in fear that what will go wrong. And we've been trained in that manner because we are we as cave dwellers, when we were hunter gatherers, we were constantly looking for threats which would affect our survival. But that is not true anymore. But that gene is still coming, right? So we are all constantly looking for threats as to what can go wrong, not what can go right. So that mindset shift has to be there as to what can go right. Once we start observing and focusing our energy on that, then that is what will start manifesting. So we need to start becoming aware of this. Personally speaking, I've actually started becoming conscious of this, and I find that more manifestation starts taking place rather than, looking at what can go wrong. And I think this is a big shift as far as I am concerned also. And I'm grateful for this pandemic where we are so involved in all this stuff that we are doing that it's really creating shifts. And I'm personally speaking, and I'm sure that it's affecting the other people who are coming regularly also.
It simply does not work to be wanting health, financial abundance, and great relationships, and then living deep within fear and struggle. It can be said that such miracle manifestations as we are talking about are impossible until they are easy. This is because struggle and effort really do not work in terms of manifesting the highest and best. Rather, as we move into the high energies of happiness, gratitude, feeling abundant and compassionate, then beautiful manifestations begin to flower, appearing almost to arise on their own. As we shall see as we move forward, there are still a few more energies that greatly enhance our ability as abundance creators.
So this is very important. This is because struggle and effort really do not work in terms of manifesting the highest and the best. So in the excursion workshop, we always tell people, effort is counterproductive. You have to allow things to come in. We again come back to the 4 S's. The first S is swata. It needs to come by itself into your life. If you are making an effort to make something manifest, then it is not in the highest energy that you're operating. Okay. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, if you're not feeling grateful and gratitude and in appreciation for what is happening, then manifestation will not take place. Okay. So what is the state of consciousness that you're working with? What is the state of consciousness that you are in? What is your state of being starts becoming extremely important.
Chapter 5, Love. On the morning after listening for the second time, my dogs accidentally escaped through my front door that was open, and I just happened to be looking out my bedroom window when they ran through the backyard, and I went downstairs and got them back in. Then I went to work, where I knew I was getting laid off, and another position just happened to open up in the company that morning in a department that I really wanted to work for. I got the job. Start on 6:30 the day after the other job ends. Pretty lucky, huh? Like I said, very interesting and lots of fun too. I drink my lucky elixir every day with my coffee.
So,
EM.
so again, Again, it's that in the liquid luck meditation, we get that excelsior, we create that excelsior out of life enhancing emotions, and we put it into that into that bottle, into that vial. So when we consume it, okay, it's happening in the mind, but the mind is very, very powerful. It can manifest anything. And when we go into that state, things start happening around us.
From the liquid luck meditation, say, I am love. Feel love and fill your container with the highest of love for yourself and all of creation.
So this is important. You are affirming that I am love, and it very clearly says, fill it with the highest love for yourself and all of creation. Now, ultimately, when you're going into quantum physics, we live in a holographic universe where one thing, if something happens here, it will affect over here. So if I am not in loving interest of everything around me, then literally speaking, I am a part of that everything, right? So if I'm not caring for everything, then I'm not caring for myself. So it becomes counterproductive. That's why universal love is what we need to connect with when we are going into manifestation, when we are going into these higher states of consciousness. And you will find that anyone who's spiritual will treat everyone in a economical way. They are not hankering for anything. Things seem to just happen for them, right? They're not after anything. They operate out of effortlessness because they've connected into that universal love consciousness where there is no argument, there is no discussion. There is just a state of being. That's all.
Tina Turner sings with considerable angst. What's love got to do with it? When the it is positive manifestation, everything. I have never met a person in my decades of manifestation work who was excellent at manifesting in a balanced way across all important areas of life, including health, financial, career, and friendships, who was not very joyfully and freely loving. We now come to the high energy we call love. In English, we use this word to cover a lot of ground, so let's break this down a bit. The ancient Greeks distinguished types of love by using different words for different types of love. They used eros to mean passionate, romantic, and sexual love. Plato felt eros need not be sexual, and therefore we have the term platonic love for a love between two persons that is very deep but non-sexual. The ancients felt that eros could be a doorway to appreciation of beauty and spiritual truth.
So the sexual love is at a lower level. It is not at that high level of universal love. Okay. So the idea again here is that we need to tap into that universal love. So platonic love between two people where they are resonating with each other, you'll find that they know what the other person is thinking. Why? Because the resonance between them is so high. And this is absolutely possible between two people. Although in normal society, this kind of a relationship is often misunderstood when it is of the opposite sex. Of course, nowadays, same-sex marriage and all that has started to happen. So it's taking a backseat. But the fact of the matter is that this can actually happen between two people where sexuality is not involved at all.
The word philia was used to connote the affectionate warmth found in friendships and is also, of course, highly treasured as a blessing in life that can lead to many positive experiences. We now use the root of this word to convey great fondness and passion for a subject, as in francophile, lover of all things. French, and audiophile, lover of music. The word storge refers to the natural affections in families. Agape was considered the highest form of love and involved a spiritual love or a very deep unconditional love. Here, love is selfless and expects nothing in return.
So at the highest level, when you are in that universal love consciousness, then there is no give and take. There is no transaction. You're not expecting anything from that other person. But when it is sexual love, when you love, you expect that back. Okay. So there's a transaction involved. But when you go into the highest form of love, there is no transaction. It's just willingly giving and the other person willingly giving back.
The Christian Bible gives a sense of the importance of love and the qualities of higher love in 1 Corinthians. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship, that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing.
So
love is patient.
So what does this? So what is this saying very clearly, right? If that base of love, if that base of selflessness is not there, then whatever you may do or whatever you may have, ultimately the ego starts coming into the picture. And as soon as the ego comes into the picture, you are on the left side of the grid. I find this, my father makes this comment that in Rotary, he's very involved in Rotary, and he'll say that if anyone does anything, they want a placard put. Okay. Now, what does that mean? That are you doing it selflessly, or are you doing what you're doing, or even the charity, to have your name on the board? So we have to think about what is the state of consciousness that we are operating in, even when we are doing charity, which he says very clearly here. Also over here, if I have knowledge, if I have the gift of prophecy, but I'm not using it selflessly, then again I am nothing.
Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres.
So many of you are mothers over here, right? So what is this describing? If you associate your love for your children, then you will find that this is the kind of love that you have for your child. Okay, your child may do anything to you, may get annoyed with you, may get angry with you, but most of the time you will transcend it, right? And keep giving love to that person, not asking for anything back, literally speaking. Right. So this is the kind of love that we need to actually tune into. We need to start resonating with that kind of love.
Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love.
So there was this WhatsApp message going around that these three people came. One was wealth and the other thing, I forget exactly what the thing was. And then when the person chose love, then the other two automatically came into the house. So love is actually the foundation. The two emotions which are there, which everything can be boiled down to, is basically love and fear. Okay. Now, where are you operating from? Fear is always on the left side and love is always on the right side of the grid. So again, we must be consciously aware as to which side of the grid we are operating in. That's I'm finding that is the game. There is no other game. What is the state of consciousness that you're operating in? Deepa has just said it was wealth, happiness, and love. Okay. So if we don't have love, we really have nothing.
There are many different Hebrew words for love as well, including familial, covenantal, compassionate, friendship, romantic, and neighborly. One of the core commandments of Judaism is love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus, this commandment stands at the center of the central book in the Torah. This implies first valuing oneself in order to be able to share that love with others.
So love your neighbor as yourself. What does that imply? So you are a part of the whole, right? So you need to love everyone as our neighbor actually. The distance is only perceptible. I mean, only in our perception. But in quantum physics, there is no time and space. Everyone is connected. So the more love you can have for yourself, the more love you can have for someone else. Now, I'm not talking about that selfish kind of egoistic love. It is actually selfless love for yourself, being compassionate with yourself. When you do that, you can become compassionate with everyone around you.
We are spending time elaborating the sense of love that I am referring to, because love is so important and is such a misused word. It can be hard to get a sense of what real love is if we have not been exposed to it as children and continue to experience it as adults. Many other things can masquerade as love or come to be equated to love. Codependence, being showered with physical or sexual attention, and being given gifts, even with strings attached, can feel like love when we have not experienced love in its purest unconditional forms.
So this is exactly what Zia and Anu were talking about the other day, that a lot of stuff goes on even when the lady is pregnant. When a child is growing up from the age of 1 to 6, those are the formative years. Now, if the child has not felt that unconditional love from the mother and the father, then growing up, the person has a problem in expressing love. This is a given. Okay. Now, so it becomes very, very important to be able to understand what this love is. And fortunate are those who can actually experience that kind of love. Most of the time, love is always a give or take, right? You're giving something, but you're wanting something back in return. Pure unconditional love is not so easy to find, but between mother and child, it normally manifests. Okay, so people who do not experience that love ultimately land up having a problem. That's one of the reasons also what they said, and we read in the Magical Child also, that when the child is born, they were talking about this tribe in Australia, I think, or in Africa, where when the child is born, the mother simply takes the baby, puts the baby on her chest, ties the baby up, and starts working and doing other stuff. Okay, the placenta falls off on its own. They don't even cut it, they don't do anything with it, which is what Zia was also talking about. And the heartbeat of the mother is what the baby has been hearing in the womb through the pregnancy. So when the baby is put on the heart of the mother, that resonance of the heart makes the baby feel comfortable, right? So this is what that unconditional love is all about, that resonance that we need to create within ourselves.
As a therapist, I heard countless proclamations of love that were designed to manipulate others, covering the gamut from children being told, "Because I love you, I have sacrificed all my own happiness for you, and now you owe me X," and teenagers and adults being told, "I love you, so you must go to bed with me." I have cringed when I hear statements such as, "I love you so much that I will kill myself and you if I can't be with you." Many of these statements boil down to, "I am so dependent on you that I will be miserable without you," or the behavior that I am seeking from you. There are plenty of people, because of their limited background with love, who take these types of statements as a sign of love and then feel the obligation to remain in a toxic relationship. Added to this is that we hear many people gush, "I love this car or weather or nacho," when they mean that they really enjoy it.
So, codependent love is a transaction, right? And whenever there is a transaction, there will be loss and there will be profit. Now, if you're forcing someone to do something, then it is not love. When you operate out of universal love, you will give the other person total freedom. There is no bandhan, there is no binding to that person. If you truly love that person, you will allow that person to do what they want to do. You will give them total freedom. And then if they come back to you, very good. If they don't, very good. Because your love is for them to be happy. It is not for your happiness. So you give your love to make them happy. And if it resonates with them, they will give their love to make you happy. But if you are making it a transaction and you're forcing someone to do something, then that is a transaction. It is not love. So many times what happens is, and see, you don't need, when you're operating in that kind of love, that higher state of love, you don't need to express it. The problem is that people want it said. It needs to be unsaid. You have to feel it. You have to feel it in the resonance. If you put two highly spiritual people together, you may find that they don't speak to each other. They just revel in the feeling, in the resonance that is created of because they are together in the same space. They don't need to have a conversation. All conversation takes place at an energetic level. And even in the Resilience Advantage program, the Institute of Heart Math clearly says that 90% of all communication takes place at a non-verbal, in a non-verbal way. So why does, when people are really in love with each other, they start actually completing each other's sentences. They know exactly what is happening with the other person. They're constantly looking out for that other person. They're not looking for what the other person will do for them. They're constantly wanting to do out of love. And it is not to get something back. It is actually for the benefit of the other person. So again, I'm repeating, when you really in love, then it is freedom. You give the person you love freedom. But when it is the lower kind of love, you want attachment. And that is where the problem starts to happen in most relationships.
We must acknowledge the fact that most Western cultures do not cultivate love very well. We start with much less intimate time with mother compared to cultures where children are breastfed and carried close to the mother's body for years. We live in isolated nuclear family groups, often now divorced single parent units. Compared to living with extended family, there is little remaining sense of community for most of us. Rugged individualism is applauded versus cooperation. These things serve to diminish our exposure and practice of the type of identity and values that foster love, community, and belongingness. The Chinese select and train children to think anything is possible and to do PK and other psychic skills. They find that children from rural areas are much more likely to demonstrate psychic ability than children from cities. The hypothesis is that the city children are more isolated and left brain dominant, and rural children more in touch with nature and extended family.
So, what does this imply? In the last bit, he says that the Chinese have been experimenting with psychic processes and PK. PK means psychokinesis, okay, where things are moving, you're bending forks and spoons, etc. Now, if we live in a whole brain state where the left and the right side of the brain are working together, our psychic abilities, our abilities to perceive are greatly enhanced compared to people who are only left brain oriented. Because the left brain is totally logical. It will not get the gestalt of the entire state. They will not get a feel of the entire position and then be able to intuitively get answers, right? The right brain can do that. Now, when I can use my intuition and then empirically analyze that intuition and then operate with it, automatically I will become more efficient. Now, over here it says very clearly about the joint family system, that is extended families. I think the joint family system was a beautiful institution. That is my view. Okay. The kind of support structure that you had, the kind of security that you had in a joint family can never be there in a nuclear family. And now what it's clearly saying over here, and it has slowly started to seep into India also, the divorce rates are going high. There was one figure I was reading that in the UK, 90% of the people are divorced. So now what happens? If you're not living in a family which is congenial, which has both the male and the female energies, you are not going to get a taste of both of them. So you will be squeamed. Okay. Plus the support system, like today, if you're living in a nuclear family and you have a young baby, you either have to get a babysitter to look after the child, or in our case over here in India, the maid will be looking after the child and you're going to be going out. Now, if you look at how our culture is developing, nuclear families are popping up everywhere and the maid is looking after the child. Now, in the formative years of the child, who is the child spending the most time with? Is it with you or is it the maid? So what is the child going to inculcate? Now, the child is more in resonance with the mother, but the maid is looking after the child. So again, there's a conflict there. Now, if the child is disconnected from the mother, then automatically trauma sets into the child. That we very clearly saw in the magical child with the matrix system, how it evolves. So at a certain point in time, it's all right if the mother distances from the child. But in the beginning, it is very, very important for the child to be in the with the mother. Now, there was a fad which came out that breastfeeding is not good for the child. Zia very clearly said that she really breastfed her child for 3 years, right? In the olden days, the child was breastfed for 3 years. Nowadays, because of figure, etc., ladies don't want to breastfeed. Again, there's a problem. So there's always a cycle. Beach mein aa gaya tha ki breastfeeding is very bad. You give that external milk and all that. Then it came that no, the breast milk is the best milk. And it is actually the best milk. So automatically, when that connection is there, the bonding is there with the child and the child will automatically become more compassionate, more loving, and will be tuned towards having a happier life. I'm not saying success today has been totally equated with money. In my view, it is not that. If you are happy, you're content with what you have, and you have what you need when you need it, that is what happiness is all about. It's not about having $1 billion in your bank account and not having a relationship with your with anyone around you and living in isolation.
We are not talking about the distorted and trivial ways the word love is used. Instead, here in this book, we are exploring love as a great power that enhances manifestation work and the wisdom to know what to create. This type of love is closest to the Greek agape, an unconditional love that transcends the individual personhood of the lover and the beloved. Most people experience this type of love as a feeling that involves openness, warmth, and connection that transcends time and space, a direct connection with beauty and an elevation of spirit. Included with this feeling is a direct knowingness that is stronger than an intellectual understanding of the rightness and truth of this type of love.
So in the beginning, when they say they fall in love, I always say that you rise in love, right? So when that happens, you will find that everything is beautiful. Everything around you is really beautiful. All your taste buds start to, the food tastes better, the smells are more enhanced, the hearing is enhanced. Whatever you want to do, you can achieve at that time, right? That momentary love, I mean, not momentary, that part of that love relationship is an extremely powerful relationship and is close to what they're describing over here. But after some time, the attachment starts and the love starts to degrade into a transaction. That is when it falls off. But that beginning part is what this is being talking about. You're totally compassionate. You'll become compassionate with everyone. Okay. You will do things beautifully. You will hear things beautifully. You'll start appreciating things a lot when that happens. When the fear creeps in, that is when all the jhamela starts.
It may go even deeper than that. My personal feeling is that everything in the universe, physical and non-physical, has consciousness. That consciousness creates this time-space illusion reality paradox. Consciousness appears to be both immanent, the most intimate quality of the individual, and transcendent, spanning all of creation and greater than the sum of all its parts at the same time.
So everything has consciousness and everything is affecting everything else. It is in the microcosm as well as in the macrocosm, right? So, and then when we are totally, connected with that love, the sum total, it's like two magnets. Okay. When we bring two magnets together, if we bring north and north together, they will repel themselves. But what is happening to the magnetic field? The magnetic field of both the magnets is getting compressed. So the total energy is depleting, right? Now, if I bring north and south together, the two magnets attach to each other and the magnetic field actually gets more enhanced than when they were individually there, right? So this is what it's saying here. Spanning of all creation greater than the sum total of its part. When everything works in harmony, you actually expand the energy more than what it would have been with their individual parts.
Consciousness is a paradox much like light being both particle and wave. In the manifestation process at its highest, it may be that we think of something from our identity as particle, individual, and then go to our connection with our nature as wave, unity with all, linking with love to create what we desire. And that, at its most essential, consciousness may be synonymous with love. If I am right, love is the most primal and universal energy that exists and underpins all reality. This is why I think that it is the most awesome and effective power that we can tap into when we want to create our world either personally or as a society.
Okay, so there is this experiment in physics which is called the split light test. So they take a piece of paper and they draw one slit and they shine a light. The light will go basically in one part. Okay, it'll give a light on the wall, which will just be the same shape as that one slit. Now, if they add 2 slits and they shine a light, then what will happen on the wall, you will not have only one light, you'll have multiple lights coming in. So what they are saying is that if there is only one hole, the light acts as if it's a particle. So it will go through and it will shine only in one spot. But because there are 2 slits, the light is diverse. It gets wavy. It creates a wave-like form on the wall. So the light acts like a particle and a wave at the same time. So what he's equating here is that we are, as individuals, we are the particle. But because we can also be connected to the whole, we are also the wave, the frequency, right? And we are actually both. We are individual as well as the whole. So we are the microcosm as well as the macrocosm.
I came to the conclusion through my psychokinesis work that consciousness and love at the most basic level of reality may be the same thing. As I mentioned earlier in the book, in 1992, I began to investigate psychokinesis, PK, which is the ability to influence matter through non-physical means. PK can be used to illuminate light bulbs, bend metal and plastic, sprout seeds in your hand, influence computers, dice, and slot machines, and create healing and abundance. PK has been proven at a level of 1,000,000,000 to 1 by chance in a well-respected body of studies.
So, so this is something that we did in the Manifestation and Creation Squared program, the MC Squared program, where we actually bent spoons and forks. We actually lit light bulbs. We the seeds actually in the 7 days sprouted leaves. Okay, the leaves come at least in 15-20 days, but the seeds started sprouting. The seeds started sprouting leaves. We rolled dice. Now let's say if the probability of rolling a double digit in 100 rolls is only 6. By using my mental abilities, if I can squeeze it to 12, I've really squeezed the entire thing. Now, with our mind, what they are doing, as I mentioned before, that he takes groups of people to Las Vegas, where they actually do all these things, right? They create a field. They create a field to throw the dice. They work on the slot machines. They work on the roulette table as to which number will come. And they are accurate, and they actually make a lot. They don't make a lot of money because the bets are very, very small. The idea is that they are proving that PK actually works in Las Vegas. And in Las Vegas, because it is very, very easy to get feedback. I've made a bet. I will immediately get the result of my PK. That normally doesn't happen in any other circumstance. Okay, now, so that becomes why that they go to the casino to actually practice PK. During the MC Square program, there is something called the random number generator, which is there in the institute, near the institute. And also they do experiments with a quartz crystal, which is attached to a computer system to figure out what is the electrical current being generated by the quartz crystal during a particular period. So in one of the exercises, or in few of the exercises, they actually have that quartz crystal in the middle of the room, and everyone is meditating or attempting to affect that quartz crystal. And they have seen over and over again, the energy generated from the quartz crystal gets squeezed when the focus of attention of so many people at the workshop is on that quartz crystal. So PK actually works. Okay. The point is that what is the amplitude with which you can make it work? So I had an interesting experience during the MC Square program. This guy had actually come in from the University of Virginia, and he had that quartz crystal, and we were doing experiments with it. So I said that, okay, let's afterwards, after the exercise was over and we were just sitting there, I said, let's see if we can, what this does to it. So the symbol that we use for Vastu and energy field rectification I put it on the quartz crystal and the energy went flat. So what that signified was that the symbol that we were using to neutralize depleting energies actually neutralized the energy from the quartz crystal. If you all are getting what I mean, right? Now, basically, if you're wearing a watch, we have seen that it is an energy depleter. Okay, it will make you weak if you're wearing a quartz watch. So, so what did that imply? That energy which was depleting, that symbol had the ability to neutralize the effect of that particular that quartz piece. So that was pretty interesting. So Ross was his name, the guy who had come. He said, "You've destroyed my crystal." Then we took off the thing, and after some time, it started working again.
I have seen PK in operation in the 70 Inner Vegas adventures that I have trained in the casinos of Las Vegas, where participants journey deeply into personal power. About the only way to PK can work if consciousness indeed creates reality. There are quantum physics explanations of how this may come about. My decades of PK experience also have given me a personal truth that love is the greatest energy from which to do PK and create your reality on a consistent and positive basis. Every time I have encountered consciousness in its highest, purest, and most powerful form, it also has been loving. Tapping into love on a very deep level can create miracles of manifestation and healing.
So suppose you are betting, okay, and you're doing it out of love. You're doing it for a good cause, right? You will find that you will win. And then as soon as the ego starts to come into the picture, you will find that you start to lose. It goes away, right? So what he says over here very clearly is that you have to be tapped into that love energy for manifestation to take place.
The stories here about liquid love meditation experiences, while amazing, are eclipsed by the events that I have witnessed when people go into an even deeper, unconditional love experience in intense workshops such as Manifestation and Creation Squared, MC Squared, at the Monroe Institute, Inner Vegas Adventures in Vegas, and Sync Creation workshops and home study. These have included casino results at up to 1.6 billion to 1 by chance, instant healings of myriad physical conditions, teleportation of objects, psychic influence over 8,000 mile distance, and many more out of the norm events.
So what it is saying over here, what he's saying here is that when you go into an immersion, when you go into a deep immersion of these states of consciousness, then results can be really, really astounding, which personally I have already experienced. I mean, actually, I'm in conversation with Joe to bring the Sync Creation workshop to India. I do not know whether he will do it or not because he's pretty skeptical about going online. But I hope that he will consider and allow us to do the program in India.
Should we end here?
Yeah, we'll end over here because it's 2:17 already.
There's a hand up.
Yeah.